I already did this, but then I saw that my phone was not recording, which was really annoying. What is your relationship with anger? Have you cultivated a relationship with your anger yet? Have you ever felt your anger very consciously? Have you ever suppressed your anger? How is your relationship with anger? We're going to be diving into the topic of anger, the sacred rage, and why it's so important for us to cultivate a good and very intimate relationship with anger in order for us to liberate ourselves from the past and create the future, essentially. My name is Nayeli Dalisay. I am a spiritual mentor and a certified Sophia Circle leader, supporting you in really navigating through this journey of awakening and of embodiment in the best way possible. Anger is a feeling that is very, very normal for our human experience. We all know this feeling. However, because we never really learned how to navigate through anger in particular, but in general with our feelings, we are having a bit of a challenging relationship with anger. If you can relate and resonate, please feel free to share down in the comments. I'm really curious where you are. That being said, I invite you to now pause the video, take 5 to 10 minutes to really journal upon your relationship with anger. When was the last time that you allowed yourself to really feel angry? When were the times that you got triggered and really activated that anger within your consciousness? When were the times that you did not feel safe enough to actually express your anger? Feel free to journal upon that and then come back to this video. Now that you've journaled on this topic, I want to address a couple of things in regards to anger and why it's so important for us to feel it all. So first of all, I just want to say that there's different types of anger, and depending how we channel this anger, it can be positive and negative. So anger in its essence is very destructive, and it really just kills away everything, right? It's like fire. Fire just destroys what comes into its presence. In the field of polarities, there is the different ways of channeling anger, in a good destructive way and in a bad destructive way. So when I talk about the good destructive way, we destroy all of the self-limiting beliefs, we destroy all of the past versions of ourselves that are no longer serving us, we destroy all of the things that our ancestors really purged onto us and that didn't go back to the 0 point of consciousness. We destroy it through the presence of the fire, and the fire can be anger. Anger can really be destroying very beautifully all of these things that are no longer serving us. And then there is like this anger that I would say it's a bad destructive anger, where people never learned how to really channel it in a good way. Probably they have suppressed it for a long time and then eventually just bursts out, and then it harms them and others around them. We can see that on the world stage right now on a collective but also individual level, where people just did not learn and don't know how to really cultivate that mature relationship with their anger, and they're just like really putting it out there into the world and destroying and harming others. And that is not a good way for us to channel our anger. So as a disclaimer as well in this is that every time that I say that you can and should acknowledge your feelings and emotions and that you should move through them, I am not saying that you should move through them in a disrespectful way and harm others. I'm saying that you get to cultivate a very mature relationship with your feelings. Okay, it's a very, very big difference, and it's a learning progress. You will probably not get it the first time or the second time or the third time. Please allow that inner perfectionist to get away a bit, and as you open yourself up to feel your feelings, it's okay to also make mistakes, but really be aware where you want to go to. I remember personally when I was starting with feeling my anger, I would really be disrespectful, especially to family members, and nowadays I would really handle these situations in a very different way. However, I had to move through that, and I had to forgive myself for having these disrespectful moments in my relationship with different family members, so that I can be now in this embodiment and like choose of like, how can I really show up in a better way, in a more mature way. And it's an ever evolving journey. I can still do better, I can still learn, I can still grow, and that's the beautiful thing of being in this human incarnation. If you choose to really want to channel your anger in a good way, allow it to be here, allow all of these suppressed feelings to finally bubble up to the surface and to move through you, there are a couple of things that you might want to have in perspective. I would really recommend for you to create a sacred space to feel your feelings, where you allow in the ceremonial setting for the feelings of anger and all of the other feelings to be felt and to be moved through in a good way. Anger is very intertwined with resentment as well, and with sadness. These are feelings that I have found they are very, very close together, and it's so normal to feel sadness and then go into anger and into resentment and move through those feelings. Men and women are going to have a bit of a different journey as we navigate through these feelings. Obviously, there's different things that we are destroying in our lives and in our blueprints, and that's totally fine. We're all in this together, and we're all essentially destroying the viral belief programs of us not being the divine sovereign beings that we truly are. If you choose to cultivate a deeper and more intimate relationship with your anger, you have to first set the intention to do so. Secondly, you have to become aware of the moments, of the times that trigger your anger, and then you have to learn to cultivate that relationship with your anger. I really also invite you to allow the anger to move through you in a somatic way. It's really important for us to release all of the stagnant energy in our bodies in a somatic way. You will find that eventually, as you progress on your journey of feeling it all, you will also have the possibility and of the opportunity to really sit in meditation and to witness the anger that is blazing through your consciousness in a very still way. That is also very, very possible. I do invite you to play around and figure out what is very, very natural for you in this moment. As you create the sacred space, it is really important for you to communicate, if you need to communicate with anyone that you might be living with, someone who lives close by and might be able to hear you. For example, when I went through a huge period of navigating through my feelings and especially my anger, I allow myself to really go there and to scream and to shout and to hit the pillows and everything. It is very, very liberating. As I was going through that, I was living in a community with 20 people in one house, and people would hear me naturally, right? And I remember that, especially in the beginning, I felt very intimidated. I felt very shy. Am I able and allowed to actually take up that space? Yes, in my four walls of my room, but people would hear me. I would start like screaming and shouting and everything, and then I would like recalibrate my nervous system. I would communicate with some of the people who I knew that were at home that I was going through that right now, and the people that I was living with. And I had a certain understanding of what I was moving through that, so that was really good, but it was still very vulnerable for me to be seen and heard in that way. As time progressed and as I would create those sacred spaces for me to feel it all, to move through the anger, to move through the resentment, I would recalibrate my nervous system of like, oh yes, I'm still alive. Yes, I was not punished for my feelings, and I was sort of witnessed for my feelings, and it's so liberating. The most important thing is for you to feel safe on all levels of your being. If you feel that there is a person that might hear you and that might then project something onto you, or might think something about you that is not true, and you want to really have that clarity, please create that space, communicate with that person and have that conversation. Tell them what you're doing to a certain extent, and tell them that you're okay, especially when you are doing and screaming and shouting in your apartment. That being said, I also want to reiterate that it's so important for us to feel our feelings, but also it's important to learn to know when to feel our feelings in what way. If we have not really yet cultivated a good way of feeling our feelings, and we know that we will burst it out and really harm others and meet them in a disrespectful way, then maybe it is also an indication for us to have that awareness of like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back, because if I am in connection with that person right now, I would react, I would burst out, and that's not what I want. Having that awareness that it's always possible to take a step back and really say like, okay, I need some space, some time right now, and I will come back and have a more mature conversation where I can think and communicate from my higher self-consciousness and not from my anger that I'm feeling right now. You don't have to go into the bad, destructive way. And my mother was a very fiery person, and I remember that my parents had one big argument when I was around 7. They had such a huge argument that they were really literally fighting in physical form. I was in that room as well, and I was so overwhelmed that I started nosebleeding out of the nowhere, and that's what stopped my parents fighting. But it was such a traumatic experience in a way that I never wanted to destroy in that harmful way through my anger, that I learned to suppress my anger and not feel my anger. And it really took me a long time for me to have this more peaceful relationship with my anger. Nowadays, I can go out and be triggered by a situation, by others, and acknowledge my anger and say like, hey, I was so angry in this situation, but I know that it's not because of that person. Often when I feel anger at a person, it's more because I feel angry that I did not show up for myself, that I did not communicate what I needed in that situation or with that person, that I gave my power away. You can really explore like, when are you feeling angry? Why are you feeling angry? Like all of those things. And very often I have found that it's mostly the times where I give my power away. And the beautiful thing is that anger is not bad or evil per se. Right? It can be channeled in a bad way that is very, very harmful. However, anger in itself is not bad. And it's actually a very, very beautiful feeling that we can have. First of all, it's a fuel for what we are doing, what we want to create, because it is a biofeedback of what we care about in our lives. We care so much that we feel angry that that is being exploited, that is being harmed, that is not being respected. That creates an anger within our universe because we're like, no, 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 no. A boundary is crossed. This is a boundary that we have to protect, and there's no other way to do that than have this anger in that. And I'm just thinking about the situation of how we are treating our Mother Earth, our Mother Planet, and how a lot of boundaries are being crossed, and it's so natural that we are feeling this anger, right? Because we care. However, it's so important for us to really channel it in a good and a grounded way. Thank you so much for being here, for having this curiosity of how you choose to really embody your anger in a good way. If you want to learn more about feeling it all, I have another video up here about forgiveness and how forgiveness really is one powerful key for us to let go of the past and create the future from this present moment. So feel free to check that out, and I'll see you next time. Namaste, beautiful one.